Hey, what's up? It's cute what if this side. Today we will be seeing, what if Deku was depressed? Now before we move ahead with the fic, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for future what ifs like this. Thoughts, flashbacks. Izuku Midoriya was a child when he got his quirk. Izuku Midoriya was a child when his dad said he didn't support his dream of being a hero, despite him being one himself. Izuku Midoriya was a child when his dad left with his mother begging him to stay. Izuku Midoriya is 14 years old now. Izuku Midoriya is now depressed because his mother is now a sobbing mess who cries every night because she can't bring Hisashi back and he knows she secretly blames him. Izuku is sad. Izuku is angry. Izuku ignores these to try and help his mother to try to get her to forgive him. He didn't mean to let this happen. 70. Izuku had just finished a rather long and annoying day of school. Having to hear Bakugo spout off about being number one was extremely annoying. Izuku found himself enjoying the breeze, so he decided to take his time walking back from school. The ground looks interesting enough to stare at. Oh look, there's a new crack. That wasn't there yesterday. Izuku's thoughts was interrupted as he bumped into someone he wished he didn't. Because once he saw that blonde hair and red eyes he knew that today awfully sucked. Oi, watch where you're going, Deku, Bakugo Katsuki shouted. Izuku just looked at Bakugo and said sorry, Kaken, before walking past him. Yeah, you better. Bakugo sneered, walking away, before turning round and yelled, and stop calling me that. Rude, Izuku muttered as he walked away. And to think we were friends. He was walking towards the bridge he liked to hang out under. He liked to practice using his telekinesis to lift trash cans and make the trash lids spin extremely fast, and pretend they were Beyblades. It also had good phone reception so he could listen to music or watch videos while waiting for his train. He could just make himself fly using his quirk, but he'd get in trouble for using his quirk. In his opinion, that was stupid. Once he got under the bridge he went to sit down, but he heard a slimy voice behind him say perfect, invisibility cloak. Izuku turned around and saw a man made of green sludge come out of the sewers. Izuku's eyes twitched as he saw the sludge man slither quickly towards him. He quickly used his quirk to grab the sludge man and lift him in the air. What? The slime villain said. I rather not get my clothes dirty and slimy. So Izuku lifted an empty soda bottle out of the trash and opened it. In you go. Don't you dare, you little shit, the man said, but to no avail as Izuku forced him into the bottle. Izuku floated the bottle into his hands as he heard the manhole cover bust off. He sighed, thinking it was another one, before turning around. As soon as he saw a large, muscular, blonde man. The number one hero, symbol of peace, All Might. I am here, the All Might said. Oh, hello, All Might, Izuku said, waving. Hello, young man. All Might said, you wouldn't have happened to see a man made of sludge around here, have you? Oh, you mean him? Izuku said, holding out the bottle, surprising All Might. He came at me, so I put him in here. All Might's surprise was quickly turned to back to his famous smile before walking towards Izuku and taking the bottle. Good work, young man, All Might said, taking the bottle out of the boy's hand and putting it in his pocket. Thank you, Izuku said. Well, young man, I must be going, All Might said as he was about to jump away. Wait, Izuku said. All Might said, sorry, but I must be going. Before he jumped off. No, I need answers, Izuku thought as he flew after him. Please listen to me, Izuku said, causing All Might to look behind him. What, do you can fly? All Might asked. No, I have telekinesis. I can fly using it, Izuku said. Just land on that roof, All Might said, pointing to a nearby building. After the two landed, All Might looked at Izuku and said, you wanted an answer. And why ask me? You seem to have a lot of wisdom. Izuku answered before looking up at All Might and said, someone close to me made me and another person hurt. Should you forgive them? Izuku bluntly said. All Might stood for about a minute and asked, what did they do? They decided that since they thought I was quirkless, they left me and my mother's life, saying that she must have spread her legs for another man if she gave birth to a worthless, quirkless, and great like me, Izuku said with a straight face, not even flinching once. All Might walked over and placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder sadly. Ever since quirks started, parents would disown kids, or even worse if they showed no quirks. Those poor kids don't deserve that. Izuku quickly said, my mother hasn't yet, but why would she? You have a quirk. All Might asked. No, she resents me. I can feel it. No matter what I do, I know she will always blame him. Izuku stopped when both of All Might's hands grabbed his shoulders and shook him. Did she say any of this? No, but then you don't know. All Might started. Just assuming the worst won't solve anything. She can't blame you knowing it isn't your fault. Real mothers don't do that. If your father does that to you, then he isn't your real father. Izuku's eyes watered. He closed his eyes before saying, thank you, All Might. I'll ask her as soon as I get home. Izuku quickly turned around and jumped before flying towards his home. All Might let out a breath before he shrunk down to a skeleton looking for him. That was too close. But it's a good thing I helped him, otherwise he might have gone down the wrong path. Now let's get you to. All Might felt his pockets, eyes widening when he felt no bottle. Oh no. Inko Midoriya was walking out of the store. She had just finished shopping and was about to head home to make katsudon for dinner. She felt that her and Izuku's relationship with each other was getting worse. Ever since his father left, he hasn't been the same. Inko tried to get him to talk to his father. He would just get an angry look on his face and say no. Inko decided today was the day to talk it over with him, and what better way than over katsudon with her secret ingredient. Inko tripped over a bottle, causing her to fall down. Ouch, she gasped. Stupid bottle. Inko stood up before picking up the bottle and threw it into a nearby trash can, causing the cap to break off, letting something out that would change the threw me out like trash, huh? A voice said behind her. Inko turned around and saw a sludge man lunge at her. Before she could out the way, it wrapped around her. Inko did the only thing she could think of. Scream. Izuku landed at his front door and quickly unlocked it before running inside. Mom, I need to talk to. Izuku started before he saw his mom's shoes gone. Where did she go? Izuku walked into the kitchen and saw a note. Dear Izuku, I went out to pick up food for dinner. Be back soon. Love you, sweetie. Guess I'll have to wait for her. Izuku sadly said as walked into the living room and turned on the TV. Breaking news. A poor woman has been captured by a villain that seemingly appears to be made out of sludge or mush. Hearing this, Izuku snapped his head towards the TV as he saw the same sludge man as before holding a woman. Heroes seem to be unable to do anything as the sludge villain is seemingly invulnerable to their attacks. As they were talking, the camera zoomed into the crime and Izuku's heart stopped. It was Mom, Izuku shouted. He quickly ran outside and took off into the air. He quickly noticed the crowd of people from the TV and flew down. As he landed, many heroes shouted at him, but he didn't hear them as he ran towards the sludge man. Agar, you again, I'll kill you as well, the sludge man yelled as he sent tendrils of sludge at him. Izuku quickly shoved the tendrils away and leapt towards to his choking mother. Got you now. Get off of her, Izuku said as he grabbed his mom and used his quirk to shove all sludge off his mom before he leapt back to the crowd. Mom, Izuku yelled. Inko's face was red as she slowly reached up and put her hand on Izuku's cheek. It's okay, MMY little hero. Inko weakly spit out before she closed her eyes. No. Izuku sadly mumbled as he sat there holding his mother's head as he heard the villain laugh. I killed her, now I'm gonna kill you, you little bra. The sludge man was interrupted as his entire body was lifted and slammed into the ground. Izuku slowly rose his head as his eyes looked at the sludge man, devoid of all emotion except for the tears streaming down his face. He stood up and walked over to the sludgeman. Izuku raised his hands as nearby power lines broke off, crackling in electricity. Kid, don't, a hero said behind Izuku. Death arms if he remembers correctly. Izuku didn't listen as he shoved the electricity into the sludge man with a simple word. Die. RG, the monster screeched. Izuku kept on torturing the monster, not noticing paramedics take his mom's body and start to work to try and save her. After what felt like hours, he felt a strong hand on his shoulder. He slowly turned and saw All Might slowly shake his head. Izuku lowered his head before dropping the unconscious sludge man as nearby police officers ran over to quickly contain the monster before he woke up. I'm sorry I wasn't here in time, young man, All Might said. Izuku finally let the tears out. Izuku sat in a chair next to a hospital bed his mother was currently laying in. He was holding his mother's limp hand. Apparently, all the trauma poor Inko suffered sent her into a coma. Izuku just kept shaking in his chair, holding back the tears. Every time a hero or police officer tried to talk to him, he just sat there shaking his head, asking to see his mom. I should have been there sooner, I should have. Izuku kept mumbling to himself, as he didn't notice the hospital door open before closing. Izuku, a voice said, causing him to turn and look. Auntie Mitsuki. Izuku stuttered out as he looked at Bakugo's mom. Izuku. Oh honey, come here, Mitsuku said with tears in her eyes as she walked over to embrace the poor boy. Izuku let her hug him as he sat there, finally letting the tears go. It reminded him of something he repressed years ago. Flashback. Izuku sat in his chair in the dark, watching his favorite video of All Might's first appearance. His dad had all but disowned him. Both of his parents had just finished a screaming match with his father leaving with a slammed door. He heard the door behind open with his mom walk in. She looked sad and tired. Mommy, daddy's not coming back as HHE. Izuku stuttered out. And Ko's silence was all the answer he needed. HHE said, I'll never be a hero. Izuku trembled before pointing to the video of All Might. DDO, you think too can be one. And Ko bursted into tears as she lunged and hugged Izuku tightly. Of course you can, my little hero. Izuku let the tears out for the last time for a while. Flashback end. Izuku slowly lowered his head as he felt Mitsuki let go. Mitsuku told him that visiting hours were over and that Inko needed to get X-ray to check for any more damage. Izuku numbly nodded as he followed Mitsuki towards the door. Everything felt so surreal now, like everything was just a bad dream. Before Izuku walked out the door, he turned towards his mom and quietly said, "Good night, Mom." Mitsuki held her tears and as she led Izuku out towards her car and drove towards Izuku's home. This wasn't going to be easy, not by a long shot. Midoriya Izuku has not been the same since the accident. His grades slipped so much that he just stopped showing up to school. He bought 2 huge crates of ramen and only ate that while watching TV for 2 months. He became more violent towards people, having outbursts at random, and Mitsuki has been trying for weeks to get him out of the house to no avail. Izuku felt too depressed to leave. Last time Mitsuki showed up was a week ago and she usually visited every other day, so Izuku hoped that she finally gave up. Today though, someone else came. And it was the last person Izuku wanted to see. Bang. Alright Deku, let's get this straight. Only I can yell at my mom, Bakugo Katsuki shouted in rage. Flashback. Mitsuki unlocked the door to the Midoriya household using a spare key. Inko gave it to her a while back. She opened the door for what felt like the 100th time this month and walked into the familiar dark room lit up by the TV. The volume was so low, she almost thought it was mute. Izuku was sitting in the same spot on the couch she saw him 2 days ago, covered with a brown blanket next to a pile of empty ramen cups. Izuku. Mitsuki started as she walked towards the green-haired boy, putting a hand on his shoulder. Come on, let's go out and get some air. Izuku sat still, slurping up the last bits of ramen from the cup before placing it down next to the big pile of empty cups. Did you bring more ramen? Izuku asked. I'm on my last box. We can get more food when we go out. Mitsuki said. Now, come on. I don't need or want to. Izuku said before turning towards the female Bakugo. I'm fine. No you're not, Mitsuki yelled, finally raising her voice. You've been sitting here for a month, eating ramen and watching TV while barely moving. You're not mentally well. Izuku's face twisted into a rage-filled look as he shot up off the couch and used his quirk to throw all the empty cups at Mitsuki, casing her to cover her face with her arms. Don't go off and treat people like they're sick, Izuku yelled in rage. End of flashback. Izuku's eyes lowered back down as he muttered sarcastically. Come on in. You are, Bakugo yelled as he stomped over to Izuku. You're getting up and getting the out of here. Izuku stood, letting the blanket slid off his shoulders, and glared at the explosive blonde. How about you get the out? I told your damn mom to leave me the alone. I just want to be left the alone. And let you go in crazy, Bakugo shouted before grabbing the collar of Izuku's shirt. Cause you're clearly losing it. Get off, Izuku yelled, shoving Katsuki off using his quirk. Why do you care all of a sudden? We haven't been talking in years and now all of a sudden you care. Because I'm worried for you, dipshit, Bakugo yelled, shocking Izuku. And if your mom was here, do you honestly think she would be fine with this shit? Huh, do you? Izuku stood there silent before turning and ran out the door. What the Izuku, get back here, or Bakugo shouted. But Izuku already took off into the sky. Damn it, he's gonna get himself hurt. Bakugo set off explosions in his hands and took off after his childhood friend. Izuku took off into the sky as tears spilled out of his eyes. Questions flooding his mind. Why him? What did he do to deserve this? What did his mom do to deserve this? He tried so hard, but he can't do it anymore. Izuku found the tallest building near him and dropped onto the roof before collapsing to his knees, gripping his. I miss mom. Izuku cried quietly to himself. Izuku felt his heart break a little as small explosions were heard close by. Izuku. Bakugo used his explosions to propel himself high in the air. He could care less about getting in trouble. Izuku was about to be in trouble, and that's what actually mattered. As he was flying, he saw a familiar green-haired teen on a roof and quickly shot towards the roof. As soon as he landed, he stomped over to him, lifting him up to his face. All Izuku felt was Bakugo lift him up from the collar of his shirt, but he didn't say anything. Why should he? What would that do except make him feel worse? Damn it, Deku, Bakugo shouted. Stop running away from your problems. Izuku just kept staring at the floor. Don't you want to be a hero? Didn't you say we were both going to UA as kids? Bakugo kept going as he kept shaking the green hair boy. Don't you care at all? Do you even want to be a hero? No, not anymore. Izuku spoke quietly, pissing Katsuki off even more. Why? Bakugo screamed, more confused than angry. Did you lie to me? Did you lie to your own mom? Izuku didn't respond as tears started to stream down his face. Bakugo set Izuku down on his feet, standing him up, and took a few deep breaths. He was going to be a hero, and heroes had to help people who were emotionally broken. Not his best quality, but now's a better time than any to start practicing. Izuku stood there, looking down at the ground as the wind blew through both of the boys' hair. It was silent, but not for long as Bakugo broke the silence. When you saved your mom, what did she say? Bakugo asked with a calm look on his face. Tears came down faster from Izuku's eyes. As she said that everything was and he could keep talking as he broke into sobs. Izuku. Izuku's sobs went silent. It's been years since he heard his name come out the blonde's mouth. Still trembling, he looked at Bakugo. What else did she say? Bakugo kept his calm and his patience. He wanted to help. He needed to help. This is why he searched on ways to keep calm. To learn to be patient, to learn to help. As she said, I was her little hero. Izuku cried as he wrapped his arms around himself, hugging himself. A few seconds passed before Izuku felt arms wrap around him and his eyes widened. Bakugo was hugging him. Izuku quickly wrapped his arms around his friend and hugged him tight, crying into Bakugo's. The usually explosive and loud boy was now calm. Something extremely rare to see. A minute went by before Bakugo let go. Izuku followed. Mom wants to see you. Come on. Bakugo said. Izuku nodded. Sniff, ook. Izuku said as he lifted himself up with his quirk. Here, I can get us there faster and quieter. Bakugo was lifted off the ground and started to panic. Don't drop me, stupid. Izuku wiped the tears off his face and smiled. Yeah, stop moving around. Fine. Bakugo crossed his arms and huffed before feeling the wet spot on his shirt. Damn it, this was my favorite shirt too. Now I got to change it cause you got it wet with your freakishly giant tears. I can still drop you. Yeah, but you won't. Bakugo said with a wide grin. Izuku huffed before he and Bakugo flew off. Mitsuki was pacing back and forth in the living room. She knew that Katsuki wouldn't react well, but he just charged right out the door before she could stop him. Her husband had left for work earlier, so, sadly, she was left to deal with damage control. Soon enough, Mitsuki heard a knock at the door and hurried over. You little brat, you better haven't done anything. Mitsuki stood confused, seeing Izuku and Bakugo next to each other. And they weren't fighting. What hap? Mitsuki started. Mitsuki was stopped as Izuku engulfed her in a hug, muttering, I'm sorry for yelling at you. It's okay, Izu. It's okay, Mitsuki smiled as she hugged her nephew back. Mitsuki felt another person hug her and looked down, shocked. Katsuki, her explosive son, was hugging her, something he hadn't done since he was 5. If you think you're leaving me out of a hug, you're dead wrong. Bakugo muttered. I wasn't. I'm just a better hugger than you. Izuku mocked, tightening his hug on Mitsuki. Wanna bet? Bakugo challenged and hugged even tighter. Mitsuki started to feel lightheaded and gasped. B-boys, you're choking me. Ups, sorry auntie, old hag. They both apologized as they let go. It's awkward. Mitsuki stopped, turning to Katsuki. What you call me? Old hag. He answered simply before he got slapped upside his head. Oh, don't ruin our moment. You ruined it yourself, old. And I thought I finally got my sweet little Suki back. Don't ever call me that disgusting name. Izuku was laughing so hard, holding his stomach. They may be a violent family, but they sure loved each other, and he was very glad they loved him. Suki loves his mama, Mitsuki mocked as she held Katsuki in a chokehold. Katsuki saw red. Die. Izuku stood in front of his middle school, very nervous. Nobody ever paid attention to him before, but now everyone is going to be looking at him. Annie called and was able to get him back in school, on the condition he could finish all makeup work by the end of the semester, and he didn't want to disappoint her. Steeling his nerves, he hesitantly walked back into the school. As soon as he walked through the front doors, everyone's eyes were on him. Soon enough, everyone crowded around him, asking him a lot of questions. Looks like someone heard he was coming back and now everyone wanted to know something. It was making him really nervous. Bakugo wasn't going to have any of that and set off a loud explosion. Back off or I'll kill you. Scared of the explosion blonde, everyone immediately backed away from Izuku and left for homeroom. Bakugo huffed and shoved his hands in his pockets. Come on Deku, unless you want to mope some more. Izuku suppressed a chuckle and shook his head. Whatever you say. Bakugo gained a knowing look before he glared at Izuku. Don't you dare. What do you mean? Izuku started with a grin. Kaken. DKU. Needless to say, you need to be either indestructible or fast as hell to be friends with Bakugo. And Izuku was the latter. Zuku just finished taking a shower before he threw on some loose clothes and walked outside. He was walking down the sidewalk, earbuds in, listening to a song he couldn't care less about. It let him ignore the sounds of the city around him, letting him think about the past month. He and Katsuki made plans for UA. And how to get there. They needed 2 things. Good grades and strength. It made things a little difficult when Izuku skipped a lot of school, but he was able to cram in a whole semester worth of studies in a 3 days, then make up his missing assignments in 5. He had no life, so it was easy to make everything up, as sad as it is. It has been about a month after he came back to school and he had some of the top grades in class. Second to Katsuki, of course. Chen, Blondie gets mad every time someone surpasses him in even the littlest of things. Izuku thought with a small smile. I'll let him feel good now, then completely defeat him in the finals. He'll have no chance. Yeah, Bakugo isn't the only competitive one. Back to the point, he and Bakugo needed training. So they went looking for his good spot to train at, and soon enough they found a place. A dump. It may not sound interesting, but it actually the perfect place for the two to train. Blowing trash up or crushing it with telekinesis and lifting any broken appliance to a pile, which they would take to a recycling center. It's also good practice for Bakugo, as he needed to at least try to be a good person. But hey, at least he only glared at people who bumped into him on the street instead of screaming die and calling them extras. Just murderous glaring. Izuku sighed and took out his earbuds before walking into the dump, already hearing the explosions and screams of rage. Die, 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 die. Bakugo raged as he slammed his palms into piles of trash and blew them up. Ugh, what happened now? Izuku huffed as he walked towards the explosive teen, rubbing a hand through his hair. Bakugo growled and smashed a lamp onto the ground before stomping on it multiple times. I don't have anger problems. Izuku rolled his eyes. Sure you don't. Bakugo yelled as he turned to Izuku. Name one time that I had anger problems. Just now. Bakugo stuttered in response before he clenched his fist. We're sparing, right now. Fine. Izuku sighed before he floated 3 feet off the ground. Let's go. The two boys charged towards each other, and when they clashed, the ground below them cracked as the trash around them was blown back. Bakugo made a grab for Izuku, but the green-haired boy leaned back before raising his hand, and blasted Bakugo back. Quickly resetting himself in the air using his explosions, Bakugo blasted towards Izuku again. Clenching his fist, Izuku pulled his fist back and slammed it into the ground, sending spikes of sand and earth up in front of him. Not letting up, Bakugo blasted the spikes apart before he landed back onto the ground and ran towards Izuku. Izuku breathed out as he let Bakugo reach him and throw a punch. Before Bakugo's fist could hit him, it stopped, seemingly hitting a barrier. Bakugo growled as he sent a fury of explosive punches into the barrier. After a minute of rapid punches, Bakugo stopped and kneeled over, breathing harshly. Izuku floated back onto the ground and put a hand on Bakugo's shoulder. "What's this really about?" Bakugo shrugged the hand off and walked towards the shore, plopping down. "Come on, Bakugo," Izuku said about he walked over to the blonde. "I won't stop asking and you know it." Fine," Bakugo yelled. "My parents tried to trick me into seeing a damn shrink. That doesn't seem so bad. They lied, saying we were going out to eat and just brought me to the damn therapist," the blonde yelled, glaring at the green-haired boy. "Like what the? Oh, that's bad," Izuku said, eyes slightly widened. "No and shit," Katsuki muttered as he put his head in between his knees. Izuku breathed out before sitting down beside his friend. "They could have asked instead of trying to lie," Bakugo muttered. "They may have been afraid that you would act like this," Izuku pointed out. "And unlike me, they don't have the ability to make barriers to stop your fits." Katsuki growled, causing Izuku to sigh for what felt like 100th time today. "They want to help you, you know that, right?" "You know that, right?" "I know." Katsuki groaned as he fell on his back. "Do you want to stay here for a bit and keep training or go home now so you can talk to them?" Izuku asked. "I should go now, any longer and they may call the cops to look for me," Bakugo said as he stood up and dusted off the sand from his pants. Izuku looked at him confused. "Why would they call the cops?" "'Cause I ran out the therapist's place as soon as they brought me in," Bakugo stated simply. "What, you dumbass?" Izuku shouted as he stood up. "There's probably cops looking for you right now. Whose side are you on?" "The side where common sense is actually in get common," Izuku yelled. "Now come on, let's get back to your house without the cops spotting us so you won't be in as much trouble." "Fine," Bakugo huffed as he crossed his arms, glaring at the floor. Izuku sighed, again, before he walked out the dump with Bakugo following. After carefully avoiding every cop car and officer they saw, getting strange looks from people, they finally made it to Bakugo's house. Bakugo sighed before looking at Izuku. "Go on, Blondie. Knock. You and that name," Bakugo muttered. The blonde hesitated before he finally knocked on the door. Rapid footsteps were heard before the door was ripped open by Mitsuki. Mitsuki shouted. "Where have you been? Your father is still out looking for you." Bakugo didn't say anything and looked down. "We almost called the police to help look for you." Mitsuki sighed and brought the boys in. "I'll call your father and tell him you're back." Izuku sat on the couch as Bakugo leaned against the wall, still crossing his arms and looking down. Mitsuki left the room to call her husband. After she finished, she walked back in. "Sweetie," she started. "I'm not being mental," Bakugo suddenly yelled. "You could have asked me if I wanted to talk to either of you, but no, all you did was try and hand me off to someone else so you didn't have to deal with me." "Katsuki, that's not," Mitsuki tried to say, but Katsuki wasn't finished. "Oh, bullshit, it's no secret you hate me." "Stop," Izuku shouted, stepping in. "Bakugo, calm down, you know they care about you. You said it yourself." Bakugo clenched his fists before shouting. "I don't know anymore." The front door was opened quickly as a man with brown hair ran in. "Is everything all right?" I heard, shouting. Masaru. Bakugo was home, and the first thing he saw was his son glare at him like he wanted him dead. Katsuki, what's?" Masaru started, but was interrupted by his wife. "Honey, I think we should have asked him if he wanted to go." "No shit, Sherlock," Katsuki shouted. "How long did it take you and Watson to figure that out?" "Katsuki," Masaru said sternly, something he rarely ever did. "Listen to me." "No," Bakugo shouted as he gripped his pants legs. "Son, take a deep breath," Masaru said. "You're angry and I understand why. I should have been a father and maned up to talk with you instead of trying to get someone else to help you." Izuku slowly slid out the room and into the other. This was a family moment and he shouldn't interrupt. "Whatever you may think, we don't hate you. We never did and never will," Matsuki said calmly as she walked towards Bakugo, Masaru doing the same. "Now come on, son. In and out," Masaru instructed. Bakugo breathed in and out before he finally calmed down. Enough so his parents could get near him. "I think we should all have a talk. As a family," Masaru stated as he guided his son to the couch, Matsuki following. "Fine," Bakugo grunted. "Izuku, go home. I'll see you tomorrow." Izuku quick and awkwardly speed walked out of the house. Even after he threw a fit, Bakugo never forgot to make he feel awkward as many times as he could. It's been 2 weeks since that incident and everything had been going adequate. Bakugo still refused to go see a therapist, but he said if he still had issues by the end of the school year, he'd think about it. So, in short, he just said hell no, but in a nice way. Baby steps, baby steps. But Bakugo was getting nicer. Die motherer. Well, as nice as Bakugo could get. Izuku hopped backwards just as Bakugo slammed his fist where he once stood. Contrary to what most would think, Izuku's strongest power wasn't telekinesis, it was his ability to dodge. Bakugo couldn't touch him, and when he was able to, he was already tired out to do any real damage. God bang, damn it, bang, hold, bang, still bang, Bakugo shouted over each explosion he sent Izuku's way. And Izuku was just around now. Missed me. Bang, missed again. Bang, are you even trying? Bang, bang, bang. Bakugo growled as he lunged forward and started his barrage of explosive punches. On the bright side of having to chase Izuku down so he could hit him, he got faster and a lot more stamina to chase the elusive green boy down. His arms hurt like hell afterwards though. Explosions don't come cheap. Here comes my final attack, Kaken. Izuku grinned as he landed on top of a trash pile and lifted his hand in the air. Bakugo smirked and rolled his shoulders. Bring it, Deku. Large piles of trash lifted into the air before they compressed into multiple orbs of trash when Izuku clenched his hand. Izuku smirked as he let his hand fall, making the trash speed towards the blonde. Bakugo took a deep breath before he rapidly hit the trash every time they got close to him. After he finished destroying the final trash orb, Bakugo fell to a knee, gasping for air as he held his shoulders. Good job, Bakugo, you lasted 5 minutes more than you usually do, Izuku said as he hopped down from the trash hill. Hell yeah, Bakugo huffed before he shakily stood up. I'll let you off easy today, Izuku smirked. Thanks for that, buddy. Bakugo stumbled a little before he regained his balance. Or he thought he did at least. Izuku was secretly using his quirk to help him stand up straight. Let's go get something to eat, I'm starving, Izuku said. Bakugo shook his head, still trying to catch his breath. We smell like shit. Let's get a shower first. Izuku stood still, smelling himself, before covering his nose. Yeah, you're right. Wanna meet me at that dango place? Bakugo asked, finally catching his breath. Sure, Izuku said as he turned and started to walk home. See you later. Yeah, see ya, Bakugo said as he turned and immediately fell forwards, barely catching himself. Izuku snorted as he plugged his earbuds back in. But not before he heard Bakugo shout. I heard that. Izuku chuckled before his smile dropped from his face as his indifferent look settled back onto his face. He could at least act happy around Bakugo and his family. Sometimes he really was happy with them, but other times he could barely force his smile back on his face. At least he rarely felt like human garbage like he used to. No pun intended. That was a good thing. Right. One day later, Izuku walked into the hospital and got checked out. Once he got his pass, he went up to the room he hadn't visited in months. His mom's. Taking a deep breath, Izuku opened the door and walked in, shutting it behind him. He quietly pulled a chair over to the hospital bed and sat in it as the heart monitor gently beeped. Izuku gently grabbed his mom's hand and held it in between his own two. He felt his body shake as the tears started to roll down his face. I'm sorry, Mom. Izuku choked out. I'm so sorry. Izuku spent the rest of the day in the hospital room, holding his mom's hand. He eventually was able to calm down enough so he could tell his mom what happened while he was gone. Even though she probably couldn't hear him, it still felt good to talk to her. He missed out on so much time with her. He won't let that happen ever again. She would be okay. She would be okay. She would be okay. 10 months had passed since Izuku and Katsuki began their training, and it went along perfectly. The beach was now fully cleared and the two boys had both changed. Physically anyway. Bakugo was more muscular than what he used to be, but still lean enough to dodge out the way of Izuku's attacks. Izuku, on the other hand, was the definition of lean muscle. If you didn't see him shirtless, you would never guess he could arm wrestle with Bakugo and win 50% of the time. Well, Bakugo would argue that he won 51% of the time while Izuku won 49%, but that's besides the point. What was the point was that today was the UA admission test and the two boys were ready to win. Katsuki already went ahead while Izuku stayed back to look at the entrance, just to take in the atmosphere. Izuku took a deep breath before taking a step forward. Okay, Izuku, you got this. This is the beginning of your journey to become a hero, Izuku said to himself, determined. But then he tripped. Or you can fall on your face like a dumbass. Izuku was about to start use his quirk to stop him from falling, but suddenly he felt weightless. He looked around and saw a girl standing upside down behind him with a smile. Well, he was upside down. She reached over and set him up right before putting all her fingertips together as Izuku felt all his weight return to him. Phew, that was close, the girl said with a smile. Sorry I didn't ask before using my quirk, but it would be bad luck to fall down on the first day, right? Why yeah, that thanks, Izuku stuttered, not knowing her name. Why did this girl look so innocent and cute? Ochako Uraraka, nice to meet you. The now named Ochako greeted as she held out her hand. Izuku Midoriya. Izuku responded and shook her hand, making sure to use his quirk to move all sweat off his hand. Well, we should get going. It would be bad if we were late to the test, Ochako said as she started to walk away. Bye, Izuku. Once she was out of sight, Izuku released a breath that he didn't know he was holding and smiled victoriously. I talked to a girl. Izuku quickly remembered that the test would be starting soon and speed walked to his testing site. As he reached the door, he saw Katsuki leaning against the wall with a mischievous grin on his face. Izuku hesitantly asked, "What? Already getting a girlfriend, Izuku?" Katsuki asked, smiling widely at Izuku's beet red face. That round-faced girl looked excited when she walked in. "What did you say to her?" Shut up, Izuku muttered as he pushed past Katsuki into the testing room, with the exploding blonde laugh before following. Izuku leaned back in his seat after he passed his finished test, along with the others' testers' tests next to him, to Katsuki. The testing time was finished and everyone was waiting for all the tests to be passed, and so President Mike could make the next announcement. From what Izuku skimmed over, there would be about 3. Or was it 4? Well, there would be enemies. "Welcome everybody to the second half of the UA entrance exam. Can I get a hey?" "Hey," Izuku yelled before ducking down, making many look at Bakugo. "Deku, I'll kill you," Katsuki hissed before glaring at the ones who were staring at him. "Thanks, young listener," Mike thanked before turning to the screen behind him. "As I said, I'm here to present the rules and guidelines of the practical." Izuku silently chuckled to himself as he got back up and into his seat. "I'm glad you showed your enthusiasm to this test, Kaken. I'll end your existence." Katsuki whispered threateningly. "Nothing will get in my way. Not even All Might will be able to stop my never-ending rage, Deku." Izuku placed his head down on the table to help stifle his laughter. "Esenaro or CKHH." Bakugo growled but stayed silent. He'd just have to wait till the test was over. Then he could tell his mom that Izuku got a girlfriend. Then they could both tease him to death. With his diabolical plan in mind, Bakugo grinned as he listened to Present Mike continue his lecture while Izuku remained oblivious and continued to snicker to himself. "All you kiddies will be doing a 10-minute-long physical exam in one of our many fake cities. At each site, there is 3 faux villains. You are awarded points for defeating each villain corresponding to points that go from 1 to 3. Attacking other testers is strictly prohibited. If you do, you'll be immediately disqualified, so don't do it. All of you got that?" A blue-haired, tall boy with glasses stood and raised his hand. "May I ask a question?" "Go right ahead, young listener." On the handout that was given to us, examines shows that there are actually 4 faux villains. Such an error, if it actually is one, is unbecoming for Japan's top academy, the teen started. "And you with the curly hair." Izuku raised his head to look at the loud teen. "He's the only one here with such curly and luxurious hair, even when it covered his right eye." "Yes, you've been chuckling and laughing. It is very distracting," the teen said. "If this is just a game to you, then please leave." "Sheesh, sorry, if I wanted to actually feel happy," Izuku muttered. "Why? All right, Examinee 7111, I was getting there," Mike interrupted. "The 4th faux villain is more of an obstacle as it doesn't reward you any points when it's defeated. There is only one at each site, like a gimmick really, that will rampage around when anyone approaches it." "Ah, I understand. Thank you, sir, and I apologize for the interruption." The 10 deeply bowed before sitting back down. "Well, that's all. I'll let you all off with our school's motto, plus Ultra." Mike led off as everyone received their testing site location before walking out. Izuku wore a green, long-sleeved shirt with similar colored sweatpants and red shoes. He was in the middle of a large crowd, waiting outside the gates of a giant fake city. Some people there had support gear, like a belt that went around one kid's stomach or metal bracers that covered another kid's wrists. Izuku kept looking around, seeing different people with different quirks. After looking around a little more, he saw Achako. He shrugged and started to walk towards her, wanting to wish her good luck. "That girl seems to be preparing for the test," a familiar voice stated as a hand rested on Izuku's shoulder. "Are you hoping to throw her off and mess up her chances at this test?" Izuku turned his head to stare at the glasses-wearing boy before looking at his hand. Suddenly, the hand was lifted off Izuku's shoulders and was sent to the teen's face, lightly slapping him. "Don't touch me," Izuku muttered as he continued walking to Achako, ignoring the shocked boy's expression. Once Izuku reached Achako, he lightly tapped her shoulder, causing her to jump slightly. "Oh, sorry." Izuku apologized. "Oh, it's fine. I'm just a little on edge." Achako waved it off. "You need something?" "I just wanted to wish you good luck." "I didn't mean to, scare you," Izuku muttered. Achako seemed to brighten up and smiled. "Thanks, I hope you do well too." "Why is she so bright?" Before either of them could continue, Present Mike shouted, "And begin." As soon as Izuku heard those words, he shot off using his quirk to enhance his speed. Well, after he waved goodbye to his new friend, of course. He heard something about villains not waiting and stuff before everyone else came running, but Izuku tuned it out. Points were the most important thing as of now. Nothing else should ever be more important than getting more points. "Ah," a voice yelled in fear. "You conscience." Izuku quickly crushed an available 3-pointer nearby with his mind before shooting over to the person screaming. Seeing a purple-haired kid about to be crushed by the same robot he defeated with Purple S, Izuku sighed as he raised his hand towards the falling robot. "Let's hope more people here know how to save themselves," Izuku thought to himself. Apparently, nobody knew how to save themselves. He was only able to gain 35 villain points this entire time because his goddamn conscience wouldn't let him let people save themselves. Izuku lifted himself off the ground and flew around to search for any remaining robots to no avail. Izuku sighed and landed on a building top, falling backwards into a crisscross sitting position. "Damn it," Izuku grumbled. "Katsuki will never let me leave this Dao." Bam! Izuku shot back up as he saw a gigantic robot stomp onto the concrete, destroying nearby building as it walked. What the? Izuku shouted. How was that a gimmick? Izuku shook his head and turned away to fly off with everyone else who saw the hearing a familiar voice yell out. "OOW!" Ochako cried out in pain. "Somebody help, my leg's stuck." Izuku looked over and saw the brown-haired girl on the ground, her leg stuck under some rubble. Izuku quickly leapt off the building before flying towards her. He skidded to a stop in front of the downed girl. Izuku quickly used his quirk of the rubble, saying, "I got you. Hey, you're." Ochako started before the rubble lifted off her. "How did you?" Izuku quickly tried to lift her up, but stopped as the gimmick raised its giant metal foot right above them. It was about to crush them. "It's going to crush us," Ochako panicked, but Izuku remained calm. "Let's hope this works," Izuku muttered before G raised his hands towards the incoming foot. Almighty push. The air in front of the two teens was distorted as the giant foot was blasted back, destroying the leg and denting the torso as well. The metal behemoth fell backwards as it crashed into the ground. Izuku let loose a breath and shook his hand. The recoil on that stings like hell. Ochako was shocked into silence, seeing the skinny boy destroy that behemoth, and only complain that it stung a little bit. Ochako turned to stare at her savior. Who was this guy? The green-haired boy noticed her staring and seemed to try to tuck his head into his own shirt. Are you okay?" Ochako stopped looking at him and pointed to her ankle. "I think I sprained my ankle." Izuku slowly pulled his head out of his shirt and offered his hand. "Here, I'll help you get to the nurse." "Okay." Ochako grabbed the shy boy's hand as he pulled her up, put her arm over his shoulder, and helped her walk. "Thank you. It's fine," Izuku replied just as the exam was announced to be finished. Izuku sighed as he quietly groaned. "Damn it, I didn't get enough points." Ochako heard this and immediately felt guilty. "I'm sorry." Izuku looked confused. "Why? It wasn't for me, you could have gotten more points." Ochako looked down. "Don't be sorry, I couldn't find enough points even before you got in trouble," Izuku reassured. But still, Ochako was interrupted by a short old lady who was pushing through examens. Out of my way, anyone over here injured?" She is, ma'am." Izuku called out to the short women, who walked over to the two. Okay, set her down and I'll heal her," the women said as Izuku helped Ochako sit. "Where, dearie?" "My ankle, I think it's sprained." "Oh, then this will be easy." Before either of them could say anything, the old lady's lips puckered and stretched out to Ochako's ankle, making said girl's foot to feel better almost immediately. "Wow, it feels all better," Ochako exclaimed. "Wait, your recovery girl," Izuku said in realization. "You can heal anyone you by using your quirk to speed up their healing factor." Recovery girl's lips retracted into a smile. "It's good to see that I still have fans." "Well, you two best be getting your things and heading home. In a week or so you'll see if you passed." The two nodded and left to get their things, but not before saying goodbye to each other. "See you later, Izuku." Ochako waved with a smile as her train arrived. Izuku weakly waved back. "Bye, Ochako." As Ochako walked into her train, Izuku leaned back onto a wall as he waited for Bakugo. Just as he was about to check his phone, he saw Bakugo grinning like a maniac. "You two are on a first-name basis now, huh?" Izuku yanked his hood over his face in embarrassment. "Shut up." Bakugo turned around and walked to their train that had just arrived. "I'll get Mom to help you out on your first date with her." "No you don't." As Izuku chased a laughing Bakugo around on the train, he's completely forgot he didn't score enough points. Well, at least for today anyway. Izuku sat in his living room, staring at a letter he got in the mail just 2 hours ago. He'd been too nervous and scared at the answer he would get if he opened it. Even knew he didn't earn enough points, he just knew it. Why shouldn't he just rip it apart using his quirk? Why shouldn't he? He knew why. His mom would say something about always facing your fears and that no matter the answer he'll always be my little hero. Izuku grinded his teeth together and forced the tears back. "No, go away, damn tears, not now." Izuku angrily ripped the letter open, already expecting a letter apologizing for his up. But what came out instead was a small metal plate which then landed on the coffee table. A beam of light came out from it which then turned into hologram video. Izuku took a closer look as the video steadied itself out. Was that All Might in a yellow suit? "Greetings, Izuku," Midoriya All Might greeted with a wave. "I'm glad to finally be able to meet with you under better circumstances this time, but as I don't have enough time, I'll cut to the point. You scored an easily passing grade on the written part of the exam. Unfortunately, you didn't score enough villain points during the physical portion of the exam." Izuku looked down and let loose a shaky sigh. Here it comes. Usually when this happens, the student in question gets reassigned to the support or general studies class. All Might stated grimly before he smiled widely. "But take a look at this." All Might turned around and pointed at the screen behind him. The screen lit up as Izuku recognized a familiar face along with present Mike. Hello. There was this boy in the same exam as me, the physical one I mean. Green hair, plain looking. Ochako started, gesturing to her own hair when she said his hair color. "I'm sure there's more people there with green hair," Izuku told himself, denying her wanting to help him. "She wouldn't go that far for me, right? The one that always looks sad." Izuku's head fell, looking deadpanned. "She means me. Hey, he didn't have enough points to pass because of me. I just want to know if I can give him some of my points so he could pass. Ochako asked the loudmouth radio host. Izuku was shocked. WWE barely know each other, why would? Sorry young listener, but you can't transfer points to other contestants. But don't worry, he'll be fine. The video cut out as All Might turned back to the camera, facing Izuku with his trademark smile. I, along with other teachers who observed the exam, saw that you stopped to save other examines from being harmed. 14 in fact. You see, there is more points that can be earned, not just villain points. The other points are called rescue points because of that. You scored first in the physical exam, closely followed by Katsuki Bakugo in second. Izuku's eyes widened in realization. 2 really. Welcome young Midoriya, to your new high school, your own hero academia. The hologram disappeared as Izuku stayed silent. Not before long, tears started streaming down the green-haired boy's face. I passed. Izuku weakly laughed. I passed. Izuku yawned as he walked into UA. Like a zombie. Bakugo ditched him so he could get to the school quicker, leaving little Izuku to shamble his way to the first day of school. Izuku didn't care though. It gave him time to sleepwalk, something he created to help make up for his lack of sleep. He would use his quirk to make his body go on autopilot while he'd sleep, and because he was such a light sleeper, he'd be able to wake up if anything important would happen. As Izuku wobbled to school, he walked past multiple people. One had blue scaly skin, another just had extremely sharp and long teeth. But one guy looked sketchy, so sketchy that his instincts woke him up for his sleepwalking. Izuku couldn't see his face because it was covered by a shadow that his black hood casted over his unseeable face. Izuku thought about following, but didn't. He didn't have a lot of time on his hands anymore to follow suspicious-looking people. Oog, summer hangover. Izuku thought distastefully as he continued his walk to school. Once Izuku arrived at the entrance, he saw a bunch of reporters trying to review students who walked inside. They were murmuring something, asking if All Might was really teaching here. Using his skills at hiding in a crowd, Izuku skillfully avoided any of the attention's whore. No, reporters. He meant reporters. As Izuku walked onto the campus, he started searching for his class. He had won same with Bakugo. When the explosive boy saw that, he growled, making Izuku chuckle as he remembered what happened. Flashback. Damn it, Bakugo yelled. You're stuck to my ass like a leech. Flashback end. His mom smacked him over the head after he said that, causing a small fight to break out between the two. Instead of being responsible, Izuku did the Izuku thing to do. Sit back and laugh like a maniac. Izuku chuckled as he finally found his classroom. As he stood in front of the door, he noted how giant the door was. Maybe he'd get a giant as a classmate. Who knows? Izuku sighed and steeled himself before opening the door. Immediately he noticed Bakugo arguing with the blue-haired boy at the entrance exam. Remove your feet from this desk immediately, the teen ordered. No. Bakugo deflected with a smirk. Remove them. No. Izuku sighed. You always do this. Bakugo turned his head, as did the blue-haired teen, and asked mockingly. Do what? Being you. Izuku responded lazily. Izuku was about to walk to a seat, but was stopped by the blue-haired teen. I severely misjudged you, the teen said before bowing. I apologize. Huh? Izuku asked, confused. The teen straightened himself and fixed his glasses, before introducing himself. I saw you save that girl when she was stuck. My name is Tenya Ida. I was from the exam, I'm sure you remember. I apologize for my behavior. I was stressed and took out my frustrations on you. IIT's cool dude, Izuku said as he turned his head away. Still, the door behind the two teens was open with a delighted laugh. We're in the same class, Ochako cheered. Izuku turned around and began stuttering. Oh, Ochako. Hi Izuku. The brown-haired girl replied with a smile. Present Mike said not to worry, but I'm still glad you made it in. Well, I was able to get extra poi. If you're here to make friends, then I suggest you go home. A voice behind Ochako muttered, interrupting Izuku. The three turned to see a figure in a yellow sleeping bag, laying on the ground outside the door. Why, my name is Aizawa and I'm your homeroom teacher. The now-named Aizawa spoke as he got out of his sleeping bag and stood up. Put on your gym uniforms and meet me outside in 15 minutes. Anyone who isn't ready once time's up will be expelled. But what about? Ochako tried to say, but Aizawa raised his hand, cutting her off. 14 minutes. Ochako shut her mouth as everyone walked towards the changing rooms. Not wanting to be expelled, everyone rushed to get changed and hurried to the field. Took you all long enough. Aizawa muttered. Today, we'll be doing a physical test. But unlike your previous schools, you'll be using your quirks. The first test is a throw. Midoriya, over here. Every student paid attention as their teacher spoke before turning to the green-haired teen. Said teen lowered his head to avoid looking at their stares before walking to the circle his teacher was pointing to. Catch. Aizawa started as he tossed it to Izuku, with him catching. Since you got the most points during the entrance exams, you'll go first. Throw as hard as you can using your quirks. Oh, okay. Izuku replied as he took a deep breath. Izuku let the drop harmlessly on the ground and raised his palm above it. Universal pull. Izuku muttered. The shot right up into Izuku's awaiting hand, grinding against the boy's palm. Izuku aimed his hand towards the horizon as the kept compressing itself into his hand. Once it seemed flat as a piece of paper, many wondering why didn't it pop, Izuku muttered again. Almighty push. The blasted off as the air around Izuku was pushed away, creating a small air vacuum around him. They kept flying and flying until it was out of view. Izuku breathed out and turned towards his calm-looking teacher. The homeroom teacher raised a timer-looking device and spoke. 100,000 meters. All the students, except a pouting Bakugo, looked shocked and amazed at Izuku's quirk and the distance he threw the. Aizawa turned and looked towards the crowd of students. Do your all and try your best, plus ultra. The homeroom teacher's bored tone. One of them spoke up upon hearing that they were going to use their quirks. We get to use our quirks, sweet. A red-haired teen grinned excitedly. This is so exciting, a pink girl shouted happily. HN. Aizawa grunted. Exciting, huh? This is Yue, made to train you all to be a hero after your 3 years here. And you think it will be fun and games, huh? So how about this? Anyone who is in last place will be expelled. Killjoy Izuku thought as he looked up to the sky, ignoring everyone else's shocked faces. Well, Bakugo looked excited. No, they're having fun. Better throw my weight around with children. Pink-eyed Fu. Expelled, but it's our first day, Ochako yelled in shock. That's so unfair. Villain attacks, natural disasters, and highway pile-ups. Those are things that heroes deal with every day of their career. Those are also extremely unfair. So I'll say it again. Welcome everyone, Aizawa smiled, which was a horrific thing to see. To Yue, plus ultra. Izuku finally staring at the sky and looked down at the slightly dented ground beneath him. Universal pull and almighty push were built so no one could fight against it. They used his 100% focus and concentration using his quirk to do, leaving him open for an attack or two. But they were both extremely powerful in their own right that it didn't matter if it had left him open. No one could touch him without getting whiplash. Unknown to Izuku, he was quietly mumbling to himself again, not hearing Aizawa tell him to go back to the crowd. Midoriya, Aizawa said for the 20th time. Oog, he doing this shirt again. Bakugo mumbled as he walked over to Izuku. I got him. Bakugo reeled his arm back and sent it flying towards Izuku's head, shocking the students seeing Izuku about to get decked in the head. Before Bakugo's fist could reach Izuku, however, his fist hit a light blue barrier. This seemed to shake Izuku out of his thoughts. Huh, why? Izuku mumbled, confused. Bakugo shook his fist, shaking off the little pain that came from punching the barrier. Weedhead, my turn. Izuku wept once he noticed everyone looking at him. He shoved his head in his own shirt and shuffled back into the crowd. I hope you won't make attack another student a regular thing in my class, Bakugo. Aizawa said. Bakugo just waved him off. I fought with him for over a year and couldn't hit him once. He always dodges or has that stupid barrier. Still, don't make it a thing. Aizawa ordered. Bakugo rolled his eyes before nodding. Like he was going to lose his dreams because an extra person needed to get common sense hit into them. Aizawa tossed him a spare and made Bakugo as well as everyone else do the same test. Ochako got infinity because of her gravity quirk, much to Bakugo's chagrin. Oi, Deku, Bakugo shouted to the green-haired boy. Tell your girlfriend to stop showing off. Ochako as well as Izuku blushed before he shouted back. She's not my girlfriend, you spiky-haired muppet. Few students laughed and others looked confused before Aizawa quieted the two. Next was the 50-meter dash. Izuku flying to the end in 1.2 seconds, Bakugo blasting to the end in 4.2 seconds, Ada getting 3.4 seconds, and Ochako got 7.14 seconds. The grip strength test was after that. A boy wing-like arms that had tentacles coming out from it came in first, with Izuku and Bakugo tied for second. Then the side jump test, long jump. The usual physical tests. After all was said and done, Izuku got first place, Bakugo second, and a girl named Momo came, boy named Shoto came in third, and a boy named Shoto came in fourth. But at the bottom of the list was a purple-haired boy named Maita, coming at dead last. Said boy looked to the ground, holding back tears, before Aizawa spoke up. Oh, by the way, the expelling thing was a rational deception to get you all to do your best. Everyone yelled in confusion, except for Maita, who jumped in happiness. Bakugo laughed hard while Izuku snickered into his hand. You all really didn't know, Momo said, sounding disappointed. Then why didn't you say anything? Everyone shouted at her, causing Momo to apologize. Izuku lazily grinned as Bakugo finished laughing. Today's gonna be fun. Bakugo and Izuku walked out of school, heading to the train station. Before they could get too far, a hand clasped down on Izuku's shoulder. Izuku jumped a little and turned his to see Ada standing there. Sorry for startling you, but I would just like to commemorate you both for scoring so high on the leaderboard this morning. Ada spoke as Izuku calmed down. Thanks, Izuku replied while Bakugo grunted in response. Don't mind him, he's just constipated. Bakugo shouted. Before Izuku could respond, a voice shouted out to the four. Hey, wait up guys, you all heading to the train station. Let me come with. Bakugo grinned as the four turned to see Ochako running to catch up with them. There she is, Deku. Just imagine, in 10 more years she'll be walking down the aisle in a nice white wedding gown. When Ochako caught up, Izuku was sputtering out of control while Bakugo was laughing. Ada was the first to speak up. Infinity Girl. I'm 10, you're right. I'm Ochako and you're Bakugo, right? Bakugo's laughing stopped and with a serious voice he spoke. Where did you hear that name? Izuku told me that's how you pronounce it. Ochako responded. Bakugo turned to the now grinning Izuku. You cheeky little waffle. PFFFFFTHNHNH. Izuku covered his mouth to try and control his laughing. Bakugo was about to yell, but Ida interrupted. We can continue our conversation on the train or we will miss it. They all agreed and walked to the platform just as the train pulled up. Bakugo turned his head to Izuku, staring him in his only revealed eye. This isn't over. It never is. Izuku responded. Izuku laid on his couch in a white t-shirt and black sweatpants, sending a text off to Ochako. While they were on the train, Bakugo snarkily suggested they all share numbers and Ochako agreed. Sure, Bakugo wouldn't leave him alone now that he had Ochako's number, but at least he had more people to talk to. Ida was stiff, but a nice guy under that thick fur of his. Izuku and him were able to figure out all the trick questions on the homework in 5 minutes of back and forth texts. Ochako was just, how was someone like her alive and existing? She's extremely nice, patient, and friendly even to Bakugo. And she was at least a little pretty. Okay, that's a lie, she was so pretty. She was literally the first girl besides his mom and Mitsuki to talk to him without wanting to make fun of him. Izuku didn't want to do anything about it though. It was just a little crush, nothing else. Besides, he'd get over it in a month after they both friend-zoned each other. Right. Izuku shook his head, clearing his head of this complex problem and sat up. He had washed to get done. Then he had to visit mom. Izuku laid his head on his desk as he returned from lunch, being one of the first people to come back to class. Being the first one back, Izuku decided to take a nap. It really felt good to lay his head down after exerting his brain to try and understand English. Why do silent letters exist? Well, it didn't matter now. It was time for a good 4-minute nah. Izuku right? A voice asked next to Izuku. God damn it. Izuku cursed in his head as he sat up. Izuku saw a familiar purple-haired teen standing next to his desk awkwardly. Oh, yeah, that's me, Izuku said. Hey, I'm Maida, the boy greeted. I'm not sure if you remember me, but you saved me during the entrance exam. I just want to say thanks. Oh, well, them. Izuku stuttered before calming down. No problem. Seriously, dude, I would have been crushed and failed if it wasn't for you. Maida held his hand out for Izuku to shake. Izuku, hesitatingly, shook the purple-haired boy's hand. The two let go and began making small talk. So, you're friends with Bakugo? Maida asked. Yeah, Izuku responded. He's an overly loud asshole, but he can be cool once you stop fearing and challenging him. Maida tilted his head. Challenging. Izuku nodded. He literally sees everything as a challenge. You breathe faster than him, challenge. You blink faster than him, challenge. That's so manly, a red-haired boy said from his seat. You think me and him could be friends? Izuku overheard him and said, I guess so, if you can deal with yelling all the time. I usually have earbuds to tune him out. The door was slammed open, scaring many in the room as Bakugo ran in. I knew you were doing that. Maida cast at Izuku a sorry look as he went back to his seat. The reason he did that was because Bakugo was stomping over. Once he got closer, he pulled his chair up to Izuku's desk and slammed his elbow on the table. Arm wrestle, now Bakugo demanded as Izuku lazily smirked. That seems a bit unfair. A black-haired girl spoke. Yeah, a pink girl agreed. Bakugo has muscle and Izuku's skinny. Hey. Izuku chuckled as he covers his mouth with his hand before copying Bakugo, and gripped said blonde's hand. You are underestimating Midoriya. Ida spoke up, defending his friend, as he walked in the doorway. He may seem to lack muscles, but do not judge a book by its cover. Yeah, Chako agreed as she came in behind the tall blue-haired teen. You guys don't know about Zeus's muscles. What do you mean? The black-haired girl asked. Ida sat at his desk and pointed to the two teens. Observe. Everyone turned to see Izuku and Bakugo staring at each other before suddenly began to arm wrestle. Bakugo would gain the upper hand one moment before Izuku would push back, gaining the upper hand. I'm gonna win. Izuku grunted out with a grin. Kaken. Bakugo growled as he pushed back harder. In your dreams, Deku. Everyone watching was surprised at Izuku's ability to keep up with Bakugo. And he wasn't even using his quirk. The bell rang, causing both Izuku and Bakugo to stand up, still gripping each other's hand tightly. Truce? Izuku asked. Begrudgingly, Bakugo agreed. For now. Izuku and Bakugo let go as the green-haired teen plopped down while Bakugo dragged his chair back to his seat. The class waited in silence until a loud and in-charge voice yelled. I am here. Izuku smiled slightly as his other classmates started to gush. He's really here, the pink girl said as she shook in excitement. The door was slide opened as All Might dived in, coming through the door like a normal person. Wow, it actually All Might, a boy with weird elbows grinned. A frog girl tilted her head. And I see he's wearing his Silver Age costume as well, ribbit. All Might walked to the front of the class and posed. It is good to finally be able to pass along my hero knowledge to all of you. And the way I'm going to will sure to be simple and fun for all of you here. Hero basic training. All Might turned and pulled out a card that read battle on it. The first thing is I shall teach you all is this. Izuku smirked as he said. Battle. Bakugo grinned crazily as well, finishing Izuku's sentence. Training. All Might smiles even wider. Exactly, now everyone, grab your hero uniforms and meet me at ground beta. All the students quickly stood up and moved to grab their costumes and go get changed. As Izuku and Bakugo grabbed their costumes, their eyes locked. May the best man win, Izuku asked. I plan to. Bakugo grinned back. Tesk, Izuku set his teeth with a grin. Shut up. Izuku finished putting on his costume and began walking out. He was the last one to finish, but it was fine. He stared at his outfit and grinned. Definitely worth it. He wore a black leather suit and pants with black boots. Over top of that was a gray trench coat that stopped above his knees. Covering his hands were gloves without fingers for his thumb and pointer finger. Izuku grinned as he put his hands in his coat pockets and walked out, towards ground beta. This is going to be fun. Izuku walked confidently into the room and saw his fellow students standing in their new costumes. The one that really caught his eye was Achako's. Oh, Achako greeted happily as she walked over. Awesome costume, I like the coat. Izuku sheepishly laughed as he scratched his cheek. Thanks. Oh, I like your costume too. Really? Achako said nervously as she rubbed the back of her helmet. The jumpsuit's really tight. I guess I should have been more specific, huh? Achako's suit looked like a spaceman's suit. If it was made for a girl and was specifically designed for fan service. On her head was a pink helmet with see-through glass covering her face. The suit was a skin-tight pink and black with detached sleeves, knee-high boots, a pink collar, and thick round bracers with handles on them. For some reason Izuku couldn't figure out. Why the handles? Izuku questioned. Oh, these. Achako started, pointing to her bracers. These are to help stop my quirk's drawback. If I use my quirk to lift something too heavy, I'll throw up. They clamp down on my pressure points in my wrist to suppress any nausea and stuff. Whoa, Izuku said, impressed. I just made this suit because I thought it looked cool. Achako laughed at that. Really? Well, I did ask for some things to help, but not to enhance my quirk. Izuku said. Can't really enhance a mind power with technology. Achako giggled. True, but it's still funny. I guess it is. Izuku responded. Izuku heard loud steps behind him along with a chuckle. I leave for a minute to use the bathroom and you're already flirting again. Bakugo said. Have you no shame, Izuku? Izuku turned around, red in the face, and said. I'll end you. Yes, I'm turning you into me, Bakugo shouts in glee. Izuku paled at that. What? NOO. Join the Baka squad, Deku. Never. The students in the room sweat dropped at this. All Might kept smiling, albeit awkwardly, before he leaned down to Achako and asked. Are these two always like this? Yup. Achako confirmed. Ida nodded his knight helmeted head. Even in group chats, they never stop. Well, okay, All Might started. Alright boys, settle down. The two stopped arguing and turned to look at All Might, as did the rest of the class. All Might cleared his throat and placed a fist on his hip. Today we will be doing battle training, as I said before. But I failed to specify what kind. All Might spoke. You all shall be doing indoor battle training. Indoor battle training, huh? Izuku mulled over in his head as All Might continued. As I'm sure you've all seen from the news or in person, villain battles are mostly seen outside. But All Might punctuated with a pointer finger in the air. Statistics show that the smarter villains are more likely to attack indoors. True. Bakugo muttered quietly. That oneer tried to grope my mom in the store. Didn't plan for my dad and me to see him. Broke the bastard's hands before he could get any good grabs. Quick thinking. Izuku muttered back. You mom would have killed him. So to prepare you all for that, you all will be paired into teams of 2 then split off into 2 sides, heroes and the villains. All Might explained. So there's no basic training. A frog girl asked as she tilted her head. All Might didn't falter. This experience teaches some of the best basic training. A well-endowed black-haired girl asked. What determines victory for the side that wins? Bakugo spoke up. How much can we hurt our opponents? Jesus Christ, dude. Izuku muttered. That's like saying how much can I kick this puppy? I'll kill you. Achako spoke up as the two kept bickering. Are you threatening to expel us if we lose like what Aizawa did? Ida raised his arm. How are we being divided into teams? My cape is fabulous, don't you think? Alright everyone, I can only answer one question at a time. All Might told the students. Teaching's hard. Oh, this is exactly what I expected from All Might being a teacher. Izuku thought with a grin. He's so awkward. Now listen up, the villain team will be hiding a fake bomb in the building. It's the hero's job to go in and take care of it. The heroes only have about 10 minutes to find the bomb and secure it. All the while the villains will be trying to stop them. All Might finished before he brought out a bucket with the word lot in it. This is how we will be picking teams, All Might announced. Why by lottery? A blonde-haired boy with a black streak in it asked. Just so the strongest don't team up and win too easily, Bakugo said. And because pro heroes have to team up with other pros they may not recognize for emergencies, Izuku added. Exactly, All Might said. Now everyone, come and pick your teams. Everyone walked up one by one and grabbed a piece of paper with the letter labeled on it. After all had grabbed one, they all went to find the person who matched their letter. Izuku and Achako both got lucky to be Team A. A boy named Shoto, whose left side was covered in ice, and a tall and muscular boy named Mizo were Team B. The well-endowed girl whose name was Momo teamed up with Mainta, who seemed to keep forcing his head away from staring at her. Bust. They were Team C. Bakugo and Ida were Team D. A pink-haired girl named Mina and a somehow sparkling boy named Yuga were Team E. A large boy wearing a yellow jumpsuit and big lips named Rikido, and another rock-shaped head boy named Koji was Team F. Team G was the blonde-haired boy named Denki was teamed with a pink-looking girl named Kyoka. Team H was the frog girl called Tsuyu and a bird-headed boy named Fumikage. Team I was a thick-tailed boy named Meshuro and an invisible girl named Toru. She was completely naked, but no one could see, except for a pair of gloves and boots. Poor Meshuro. And finally, Team J was the spiky red-haired boy Ijiro pairs with the oddly shaped elbowed boy named Hanta. With the teams all made, All Might reaches into another 2 boxes labeled villains and heroes respectively. The first teams up are All Might pauses for dramatic effect. Team A as the heroes and Team D as the villains. Izuku grinned as Bakugo smiled murderously. Better have those earbuds out, Deku. Bakugo said, threateningly but somehow still friendly. I'd say the same, but we both know you have them up you ass along with that stick, Kakin. Izuku retorted with a scary grin. All Might's sweat dropped. If this was how these two treated their friends. He pitied the sorry villains who would ever come in contact with them. Okay, Team D head in first. You'll have 5 minutes to plant the bomb before the heroes are sent in. The rest of us will watch in the control room via CCTV cameras. Good luck. Bakugo and Ada headed into the building as Izuku and Ochako stayed outside while everyone else walked to another building down the street. How much money did the fake city cost again? Okay, Zu, we got this. Ochako started with a fist pump in the air. Do you have a plan? Izuku grinned. He didn't spend a whole year fighting Bakugo not to have a plan fighting him. But that also meant Bakugo had a plan too. I have a few, Izuku admitted before asking. How fast can you run? Pretty fast if I try really hard, Ochako said. Izuku nodded before he floated in midair, crossing his legs. So here's the plan. And begin. All Might's voice rang through the earpieces of the 4 students. With each team already prepared, the test began. Ochako was sent ahead first into the building. As she walked through the first story of the building, she noticed how all the walls were made of complete metal. This must have cost a fortune. As she walked out the end of the hall, she entered a large spaced room with metal pillars close to the walls. She heard steps walking towards her as she looked down the hall, see Bakugo standing there, in front of the only exit to the next floor. Sup, round face. Bakugo greeted with a grin. May I know where Izuku is? Ochako looked confused. Why was he being so friendly? You know I can't see. Besides your bedroom, Bakugo said with a shit-eating grin. Ochak gained a full-face blush as she looked away, covering her face. Bakugo laughed before setting into a stance. Izuku knew if me and fought, it would take too long, so he went ahead while asking you to stall. Am I right? Ochako stayed silent, which made Bakugo's grin even larger. Figure as Bakugo was stopped as multiple metal plates crashed through a wall and slammed him to the side, sending him slamming against the opposite wall. I'm not that lazy, Bakugo, Izuku quipped as he walked through the new hole in the wall, hands in his pockets. You overthinked about what I would do. Why yeah. Bakugo grunted in pain, but still held a grin. And not a nerd like you so. Izuku shook his head and motioned for Ochako to go. I'll take care of him, go on ahead. But you have him pinned down, just wrap the capture tape around him and he'll be dis. Bakugo unleashed a roar as the metal was blasted off of him before stepping out the smoking crater in the wall. Good luck, Izuku, Ochako said quickly as she ran out the room. Izuku chuckled as Bakugo rolled his shoulders. Remember, they're watching, Bakugo, Izuku said. Yeah, Bakugo said before settling into another stance, palms already smoking. Let's give them a show. Izuku pulled a hand out of his pocket and clenched his fist. Let's. Bakugo blasted off explosions from his palms and flew straight at Izuku. The green-haired boy threw his hand in the air, sending a thick slab of metal up in front of him, blocking him. An explosion slammed into the metal, sending smoke that covered Izuku's view. The smoke moved towards Izuku left, causing him to almighty push it away. But when the smoke cleared, it was revealed to be just a piece of metal. Before Izuku could turn, his head was kicked into the metal, denting it. Got you where, Bakugo shouted happily. Finally, Izuku quickly used his quirk to shove him away before rubbing his head in pain. Damn, that hurt, Izuku hissed as he rubbed his head. Should have underestimated you enough to use that move as recklessly as I did. Bakugo regained his balance and smiled victoriously. I finally hit you. Yeah, Izuku muttered. Good job, want a cookie? Awa is Suzuma. Bakugo's taunts were cut off as a metal plate flew and hit the back of his head. Awa, what's the matter? Izuku taunted back. Little Suki got hurt. Bakugo stopped holding his head in pain as his hands started smoking. You're dead, Bakugo shouted as he rushed Izuku. Izuku jumped backwards, letting Bakugo's exploding fist slam into the floor, making a crater. Izuku grinned as he pulled both his hands out of his pockets, pointed to his crotch, and shook his hips back and forth. Suck it, Izuku said mockingly before leaping out the way as Bakugo tried to hit him again. Die, Bakugo kept trying hit Izuku in his rage, but the green-haired boy kept dodging. Suck it, bam, suck it, bam, suck it, bam, die you are. What? Izuku stopped, looking confused. Shut up and die. What is Midoriya doing? Momo asked, seeing the teen purposely making Bakugo mad. He's utilizing a common tactic that many heroes, even villains, use. All Might started. Make your opponent so mad that they can't think straight and attack recklessly. If this was a real fight, Izuku would have already beat young Bakugo. Then why isn't he finishing the fight? Denki asked. You'll see. All Might stared at the screen. Now watch. Izuku dodged to the left as Bakugo slammed his fist into a pillar, knocking a good chunk of it off. He stopped as stood still, huffing in and out as Izuku brought the metal chunk towards him. I'm going to end you, Bakugo huffed. Izuku clenched his hand as the chunk of metal was clamped down as well until it took the shape of a hand. Izuku lazily grinned, hiding his tiredness. Come at me then, Su. Dakk, Bakugo yelled out as he shot an explosion at Izuku. Izuku dodged before sending the hand at Bakugo. Hurry up, Ochako. Izuku thought. I have to hold back or else we would both destroy the building. And he's not holding back at all. Ochako hurried down the hall as explosions and slams rang out all throughout the building. Those two don't hold back, do they? Ochako said to herself as she kept running. I better hurry, I don't think we have a lot of time left. As Ochako opened his door, she rushed in and saw Ada standing in front of the bomb, with his back to her. Muha, Ada said, trying to sound evil but ended up sounding silly. Ochako tried to hold in her laughter, but just busted out laughing. PFFF the haha. Oh, Ada yelled as he spun around. You, saw that. Ochako couldn't form words so she just nodded her head. Ada groaned and held his helmet in his hands. I was trying to practice and sound scary and get in character ... but I don't know, I guess I'm not good at acting like a villain, okay? It's okay, Ochako laughed as she waved it off. Can we just fight now? Ada asked. Ochako settles into a stance and nodded as did Ada. Ada sped forward at surprising speed, considering he was wearing full metal armor, and tried to kick Ochako. Ochako jumped out the way in front of a stone pillar as Ada smashed his foot into it. Ochako quickly tapped the rubble that came off the half-broke pillar before raising her arms to block Ada's kick. Ochako was sent skidding back as she hissed, rubbing her arms. Owie. Ada rushed forwards again, but Ochako rushed at him as well, leaping over his leg. Just as Ochako landed, she turned and tried to tap him. But Ada jumped back. Ochako activated her earpiece and said, Izuku, I'm ready. Huh, Izuku said confused. He forgot he had a earpiece and it costed him. Bakugo took Izuku's confusion to his advantage and blasted the metal hand back before stomping Izuku in his stomach, hard. Izuku was sent flying back as he slammed into a wall. Bakugo wasted no time and dashed towards him, slamming his hands around Izuku's neck, holding him in place. To win, Bakugo growled. Izuku grinned, despite the sweaty hands gripping his neck. Nah, you just sealed my victory. Why? Before Bakugo could finish, he was shoved away from Izuku and was slammed into the opposite wall. Izuku pulled himself out of the wall and pointed his thumb and pointer finger to the roof. Ochako now, Izuku said as fed his thumb forward, making the air around him was distorted before shooting upwards through the roof. Ochako clasped her fingertips together as all the rubble and pieces of metal she brought with her came down. She quickly latched onto a pillar right before the ground under her and Ida was blasted open. Just before the bomb was moved, the rubble slammed down around it to keep it still. Ida was flung backwards before the air blast settled down. Letting go of the pillar, Ochako made herself float over to the bomb before she landed on it. The hero team. All Might started. Nuo. Bakugo said. No. Won. Damn it, Bakugo yelled as Izuku tried to catch his breath. We won, Izuku, Ochako yelled excitedly from their connected mic. Izuku started to feel dizzy. Yeah, we won. Bakugo's head shot over as Izuku fell over. The last thing Izuku heard before passing out was Bakugo shouted out. Deku, you idiot. You too, Kaken. Izuku slowly opened his eyes before quickly shutting them. It was too bright. It was all too bright. Even when he shut his eyelids he could still see the light. So he grabbed the pillow his head was resting on and covered his head with it. Zuzu, you're awake, a familiar cheery voice yelled in excitement. Ignoring his now very noticeable headache, he shot up from the bed, letting the pillow fall off the bed and hit the floor. The light that was previously hurting his eyes was ignored. Ochako was sitting in a chair against a wall in the room, looking at him with a big smile on her face. After getting over his initial shock, he noticed that he was not in his room and Ochako was not in his room either. What happened? Izuku said as he put a hand to his head as the other pushed him up so he could sit up fully. Well, we won the exercise, but then you passed out after you and Bakugo fought. Ochako explained before getting up and walking to the door. I'll go tell recovery girl you're awake. Okay, thank you. Izuku thanked as Ochako waved goodbye and left. Izuku pushed himself up higher so he could lean against the bed frame. He was usually never this tired after he fought against Bakugo. Hell, they must have fought hundreds of times by now, but what was different this time? He flinched as his head pulsed again. Wait, now he remembered. Bakugo was actually able to hit him this time. But was one hit really enough to take him out? Well, Bakugo hit him twice, but the point still stands. He couldn't dodge forever. He could dodge for hours on end, but if someone could distract him like Bakugo then land a hit, he'd be beaten. And he was pretty sure that villains didn't lessen their hits like Bakugo did. Recovery Girl's entry snapped him out of his own thoughts. She began listing off his minor injuries and said he needed to be more careful. He's lucky that his was just exhaustion and not a concussion. Soon after, Izuku was cleared to leave, and so he did. He put on his uniform and walked back to his classroom. Izuku opened the door to Class 1A and immediately all eyes were on him. Immediately he was surrounded by a bunch of his classmates. That was so cool. Your fight was even flashier than myself. I'm glad you're okay, Zuzu. Your prowess in battle is very impressive, Midoriya. I didn't expect that outcome. You are full of surprises, Midoriya. Your fight with Bekubra was so manly. Izuku has already turtle-headed himself in his shirt during everyone surrounding him, but poked his head out a little when he heard the last part. Bekubra, Izuku asked. How are you still alive? Bakugo should have killed you by now. Shut it, Mosshead, the blonde yelled out as he stalked up to Izuku, with a towel in his hand. Why do you have a? Izuku was interrupted as Bakugo started hitting him with it. Don't do that whack again, Bakugo yelled as he whacked Izuku over the head. Oh, I deserved that. Oh, I deserved that too. Bakugo whacked him one more time before Izuku caught the towel. Oh, you're pushing your luck, piss hair. Bakugo yanked the towel back and grunted. Don't fall asleep after a fight next time, and I won't have to. Sieda Ochako said happily. Bakugo does care. Indeed, I do not. The entire class was already laughing at Izuku getting assaulted with the towel, but this made most of them double over in laughter. Izuku sighed as he closed the door to his home behind him and walked to the bathroom. While he already felt a lot better than earlier, he also felt insanely tired. His already horrible sleep schedule combined with exhaustion from a fight and Recovery Girl's quirk had him barely standing. Luckily, hiding things is his specialty. Maybe a nice warm shower would wake him up long enough to finish his homework, then maybe he could get some sleep. His phone buzzed just as he was taking off his shirt. He checked it and saw it was a text from Ochako. Hey Izuku, just wanted to make sure you're okay. You seemed really tired after the battle training, but you were acting fine. So I just want to ask if you're okay. Izuku raised an eyebrow as he read the spelling error. Ask ugh, I hate my keyboard. Izuku started to uncontrollably laugh. Just imagining Ochako frown like the little emoji and scream no at her phone was a really funny mental image. He sent a text back. I'm fine, just a little tired. I'm about to hop in the shower then get started on my homework. Soon after he hit send, Ochako sent another message. Okay, just checking. And I need to get started to talk to you later, Zuzu. Izuku smiled at the nickname she gave him. While he couldn't smile like that in public, lest Bakugo see and make the rest of Izuku's day hell. You too, see ya. With the message sent, Izuku put down his phone and stripped off the rest of his clothes before he started the shower. Today was fun. Your fault. Failure. She left you on purpose. She hates you. Everyone hates you. You're all to blame. Stoop, Izuku screamed as he bolted out of bed, sweat dripping his forehead. He could barely see, everything was too much. His was raising and falling with every desperate breath. With each breath he slowly felt it get harder, soon finding that he couldn't breathe. Why couldn't he breathe? What's wrong? Why couldn't he breathe? Izuku began panicking, grabbing and clawing at his in a futile attempt to regain the ability to breathe. Suddenly, everything stopped. He could breathe again. He could see straight. Everything was normal. Izuku was still catching his breath when he noticed that his quirk was active. Everything in his room was floating. He slowly lowered everything down, making sure not to break anything. But something fell out from his dresser. Instead of just using his quirk to put it away, he felt the urge to get up to get it. And so he did. He put his bare feet on the carpeted floor and slowly walked to the fallen object. As he was getting closer and closer, he could make out the shape of it. As he got closer, he realized it was a stuffed animal. Once he stood in front of the little toy, he remembered what it was. It was a yellow stuffed elephant. Its torso was covered in little multicolored strips that poked out. Polka-dotted coloring was on its hands, feet, and ears. Izuku reaches down and grabbed it and immediately felt the strips on the front part of the torso. They were so soft and silky. It felt so comforting. He remembered now. He got this when he was a kid, 3-ish. Mom got it for him. He named it Illy. It was around the time he was first learning how to say animal names. He forgot he had it in his dresser. Illy, huh? Inko said with a soft smile. Well, Illy here can keep you from being lonely when Mama isn't around. Okay. As Izuku finished thinking about the memory, he realized he'd been crying, feeling tears flow down his cheeks and to his chin. Gently hugging the now named Illy, Izuku turned and walked to his bed, pulling the blanket over him. Izuku slept with no nightmares nor dreams the rest of the night, a completely undisturbed dead sleep. Some may find this kind of sleep not to be satisfying. Izuku just welcomed it with no argument. He was sure he had a test tomorrow. Or was it today? Everything was just white noise. During classes he was barely able to keep up, only enough to take notes and look like he was paying attention. They had to do a voting thing for a class president. Izuku put Ida's name down, laid his head on the table, and rested his eyes. When lunch rolled around he skipped grabbing a tray and just walked to his table. He might be hungry, but he just wanted to rest. He laid his head down and closed his eyes. A few minutes passed and he still hasn't fell asleep, only being successful at resting his eyes. A few more minutes and Uraraka, Ida, and Bakugo sat down. Hey Zuo. Ochako cut herself off by covering her own mouth. Is he sleeping? Ada messed with his glasses. I do not think so. It is very loud in here for someone to even think to themselves properly. Weedhead's not asleep. Bakugo growled. What he is doing is not eating. Am not hungry. Izuku said into the table. Bakugo grabbed Izuku by the back of his collar and lifted him up. Yes you are, now come on and go get your lunch. Bakugo ordered before dragging him to the line. Izuku waited a short while before he got his food. He walked over to the table again and began eating. Ada and Bakugo were arguing about eating etiquette or something when Uraraka turned to him. Hey Izuku. Ochako asked. Izuku swallowed a mouthful of food before turned to her. Yeah, are you okay? Ochako asked, looking worried. Izuku stuttered, not expecting it. As luck would have it, a very loud alarm rang out, scaring the students in the lunchroom. What in the name of shit is going on? Bakugo roared above the alarm. Izuku was covering his ears with his hands. Not sure, but it must be important. I know why Ada yelled, like almost every time he spoke, but 10 times louder. This alarm rings when there is an intruder on campus. Then shouldn't we leave? Ochako shouted. Bakugo turned to her. You want to go out there and get crushed, go right ahead. Izuku looked around to try to find any staff or pro but only saw out a nearby window. He saw Eraserhead and Present Mike talking to some news reporters. Guys, Izuku shouted to get his friend's attention. It's just some reporters. We need to tell everyone Ada spoke. But how? Ochako yelled back. Everyone's too loud. I got an idea, Izuku shouted before he turned to Bakugo. Suki, tell them to be quiet. Shut, Bakugo raged, more at Izuku than the crowd. The entire horde of students stopped their panicking as they all turned to the noise that was louder than the alarms. Quick on his feet, no pun intended, Ada took over from there. Everyone do not panic, the media were somehow able to sneak into the school. We are in no danger now, please calm down and walk in an orderly manner. Ada finished as he started to huff. Everyone immediately calmed down and began walking, starting conversations and joking about the false alarm. Izuku was rubbing his ears in pain. Jesus tapped in Christ, Ada. That was louder than Katsuki. And I called him the S word. Damn right you called me the S word. Bakugo growled. Ada looked embarrassed. Apologizes. I didn't mean to hurt your ears. It's cool, dude. Izuku yawned as he put his hands in his pockets and began walking away. Let's start heading to the evacuation site with everyone else. Aizawa won't be able to get us in trouble if we come in a large pack. Bakugo followed after him. Doubt it. Pink Eye would expel the entire school. Ochako hurried after them. Do you think the principal would let that happen? Ada was already ahead of everyone using his mastered speed walk technique. I would hope not. That would leave a huge blemish on the school's reputation for punishing the students for the school's lack of security. I'd still think he'd do it. Izuku shrugged. Probably. The 3 others all responded in unison. And even after this entire situation, Ochako never forgot her question, but sadly couldn't find another opening to ask again.